Yeah. With the guy, please. $50.
We are a peaceful people. Struggle is we struggle, and we don't look for trouble. Just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake.
Please, could you please inform PSC of your team that you have with you before we get started?
Okay, I'll ask the officers to introduce themselves.
Certainly.
From my extreme right.
Good morning, George Jarvis, Chief Technical Officer, Ministry of Agriculture.
Good morning, Janet Thornton, Assistant Secretary, Finance.
Good morning, Basie Ferguson, Deputy Permanent Secretary, Finance, Ministry of Agriculture.
Good morning, Sharon Farid, Principal Assistant Secretary General.
Good morning, Garvin Cummings, Chief Hydromet Officer. Chief Hydromet Officer.
Wazir Mohammed, Finance Manager, NDIA.
Good morning, Dave Hicks, the Acting CEO of NDIA.
Good morning, Faisal Bakas, Head of Finance, Kaisuku.
Good morning, Kamal Alvin, Project Coordinator, Agriculture Sector Development Unit.
Good morning, Ricky Rupchan, General Manager, Hope Coconut Industries Limited.
Good morning, Raymond Lachman, Project Coordinator, Agriculture Sector Development Unit. Morning, Danishwar James, Project Coordinator, ASDU.
Thank you. Members, we have...
Mr. Chair, just a question. I mean, there's some acronyms there which I don't think, I don't know if our members, ASDU and Project Coordinators, can they actually give us the full name of what they are in charge of?
ASDU is Agriculture Sector Development Unit.
Okay. And your name, sir?
Danishwar James, Project Coordinator.
Any other acronym that was mentioned?
The one before, I think.
The one before.
So it's Raymond Lachman, Project Coordinator, Agriculture Sector Development.
I think that covers it, Member Patterson. Chair. Members, we have before us the Ministry of Agriculture, and we have 42 paragraphs. Before I put the paragraphs, I think Member Maipa want the floor, so go ahead, sir.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask if this Agriculture Sector Development Unit is a new unit under the ministry, or it was there all the time? All the time.
It was there for several years. I think it was first operationalized in 2007.
Okay, and can you just probably in 3-4 sentences, what does it cover? Because it's new to me, and I'm not sure if it is to other members too.
The ASDU is the section that deals with especially foreign funded projects.
Foreign funded.
Yes, we've dealt with projects from the ones that at present are the World Bank, the World Bank, IDB, and we've had International Fund for Agriculture Development, and what was that? Agricultural Development Fund.
Okay, and can I ask all the officers who introduced themselves, Chair, they were the said officers in 2019 at the respective departments.
Yes.
Yes, with the exception of NDIA and
Gaisuku, yes, we were not there.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, members, we have 42 paragraphs for this agency. I put paragraphs 551 to 566 for our consideration. The floor is over to Ms. Director of Finance. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. And sir, I just wanted just a little bit more clarity. That specific unit, does it fall under any agency or is it standalone?
It falls under the ministry. Ultimately, the permanent secretary is the overall boss.
Okay, so it doesn't fall under any agency, it's just under the ministry.
Correct.
Member Maipo, yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, I want to turn our attention to 560. Subsidies and contribution to local organizations, which includes NDIA, NARI, Guyana Livestock Development Authority, Guyana School of Agriculture, MMAADA, Guyana Marketing Corporation, Hope Coconut Industries Limited, the Guyana Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. I would like for us to get some clarity as to the audited financial statements of these respective agencies. And if we could start perhaps in chronological order of how it is here, NDIA.
Okay, thank you very much. So, and as an update, the audit reports for NDIA 2015 and 2016 would have been submitted, and it's now to be laid at the National Assembly, 2015 and 2016.
Okay. NARI?
NARI, 2019 to 2021 financial statements would have been done, and the audit is in progress for 2018. The audit is in progress for 2018.
For 2018?
Yes, this as far as I have here. 2012, 2011 audit report to be laid at the National Assembly.
Yes, just
yeah, there's a difference in information we have.
2018 is in progress.
No, it was laid in Parliament.
It is said that the 2019 to 2021 financial statements are with the Auditor General. 2019 to 2021. For NARI.
But 2018 was laid in the Parliament.
Yes.
Okay, so you made a mistake just now. Yeah, I understand.
Right. So I moved to GLDA. 2011 audit report to be laid. We have that.
To be laid?
To be laid. GSA 2008.
Hold on, 2011 to be laid.
Yes.
So 2012 is still in progress?
For the financial statements, we have 2013 to 2018 with the Auditor General. So it has to go, it's the process. financial statements goes to the Auditor General, and then they do the necessaries and say it's ready to be laid. That feedback gets back.
So the financial statement, let me see if I'm getting this right. The financial statement is submitted to the Auditor General's office, and then the Auditor General conducts an audit. And when the Auditor General conducts that audit, that report is what is laid in Parliament. So the 2012 audit, AG.
2012 has been completed.
So where are we now? We're at
2013 to 18.
2013 to 2018.
Yes.
So you have all the statements from 13 to 18.
Yes. And in order to complete it, we have contracted out under the section to Bahadur and Solomon 2013 to 18 and 19 to 24 in order to get it up to date.
Thanks, AG.
Stick a pin in my poll. 2018 was last audited, but there's no indication that 2012 or 2011 was laid in the National Assembly. Has this been brought to the attention of the minister? Because after the audits are done by the audit office, the matter then goes to the minister, who brings it to cabinet for approval to lay in Parliament. And we haven't seen these, so I don't know if they're anywhere. And could the PS answer? The minister has to bring them to cabinet, but these have not. GLDA has not been brought to cabinet, at least not 2011 and 2012 for the period 2020 to 2023. So it's not being laid.
Right. So 2011 audit report is at the Ministry of Finance. That to be laid.
Finance. Why is it at the Ministry of Finance?
FS is on the call. I would kindly ask the FS if he's there.
FS, can you lend some assistance? FS?
Chair, I'm sorry, I was distracted a bit. I didn't, let me apologize because I didn't hear your question clearly. I was distracted with some work here. Could you repeat what exactly?
Right. So FS, I'm asked about the status of these agencies in terms of the audit reports, and 2011 audit report to be laid. But in terms of where it is now, I would have sent it to the Ministry of Finance.
Yes. So Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
I think his mic is muted.
We're not hearing you, FS. Could you fix your mic?
Parliament. I don't know if I was clear, Chair.
No, we didn't hear anything.
No, we didn't hear you actually. Can you repeat, sir?
So the team at Finance is currently reviewing the report. We're hoping to complete that exercise shortly so that we could work with Ministry of Agriculture to get those reports laid in Parliament so that we could fulfill our statutory obligations.
Yeah, but before that happens, FS, it has to go to cabinet. The minister, the subject minister, brings those reports to cabinet for cabinet permission to lay in the Parliament. It doesn't go through.
Yes, yes, Minister. Yes, so that we will not ignore that. Yet. We will not ignore that. We will not ignore that procedure. We're currently reviewing the document, right? And we will follow the usual procedure of getting it passed to cabinet, then to Parliament.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
And it's the same with the School of Agriculture. 2009 is with FS and MMA.
Well, I was going through the entire list, Committee Chair. I wanted the PS to brief us on the because I have some other comments on it too.
Yes.
So can the PS please continue? We are Guyana School of Agriculture now.
Okay. 2008 and 2009 audit reports are done and to be laid at the National Assembly. MMA 2003 to 2009 audit reports are done and to be laid. National Assembly.
2000 and what?
3 to 2009. GMC 2019 audit report has been done and to be laid.
So I'm assuming, PS, when you're telling us that 2019 audit report is done and to be laid, you are actually saying to us that 2018, 17, 16, 15 have been completed.
Yes.
Okay.
Hope Coconut 2008 to 2015 audit reports are done and to be laid in the National Assembly. For Gaisuko, 2017 and 2018 audit reports are done and to be laid in the National Assembly.
What about pesticide toxic chemical? They have laid in 2019. So in other words, 2020 and 21 are ready to be laid?
They are fully autonomous, Minister. We do not, I think they go directly to the Ministry of Finance. They're fully autonomous. So that was recorded here.
Yeah, it is in the list we have.
It's in the list you have?
Yeah.
It's not mine.
There's subvention agencies, PS. Subvention agencies, the money that they come from whichever sector is a subvention agency, and therefore the report goes through the usual arrangement to Auditor General, Minister, the sectoral minister to Cabinet, and then to be laid. So 2019 was laid in the National Assembly. I'm asking about 2020 and 2021. It's listed in the briefing notes we have here.
They have not received money from us, so I may need to seek some clarity there.
The Pesticides and Toxic Chemicals Control Board?
They have a board, a fully autonomous, and I can't recall.
So where do they get money from?
They would generate their own revenue.
So we don't ever give them subvention?
Not to my knowledge. Don't know my predecessor.
But nevertheless, they fall under the Ministry of Agriculture, don't they?
Yes. So I can certainly.
And therefore, the Ministry of Agriculture is responsible for bringing their audited reports to Parliament. The fact that they're a statutory body doesn't mean that they don't submit, just like Gaisuko. Can the Auditor General guide us on this? Because their financial reports went to the Audit Office for 2022.
Auditor General.
AG, can you answer the member's question?
Mr. Chair, I would just have to check back the Guyana Sugar Corporation Act, but all the entities, once they're a statutory body, they are required to be laid by the respective ministers in the National Assembly.
Yep.
And that's by law.
Yeah.
Yes.
So PS.
I can provide that.
Thank you. I want to get Chairman.
My Paul, before you go on, I had one or two things before you got to that. Can we go back to that for a minute?
Yeah, no problem. I'm still on the same paragraph, but if it's concerning the same thing, but I was going to move to some further clarity on the same paragraph.
Okay.
No, but if you
have the floor, Mama Maipo.
Thank you. Yes, Chair, I want to understand what is hampering these agencies from having timely audited financial statements. If the process requires the agencies to submit their financial statements to the Auditor General, and then the Auditor General audits by whatever means, whether it's contracting out or his department does it, what is causing this delay in terms of having financial statements submitted to the Auditor General's office?
Let me just say that financial statements are with the Auditor General, if you want me to go that through. So the Auditor General would then peruse what we would.
All right, let me ask you this. Is the year 2021 financial statement for NDIA with the Auditor General?
Yes, sir.
2022?
No, sir.
So is 2022 delayed, or the time has not come for submission to the Auditor General?
It has delayed by a few months.
Okay, so there's a delay with the financial statement 2022.
Yes, for NDIA.
NDIA. NARI is 2022 with the Auditor General?
No, not as yet.
Delayed.
Yes.
Right? But 2021 is with him.
Yes, sir.
And I'm assuming once 2021 is with him, it means 2020, 2019, 18, and so on.
Yes, yes.
Guyana Livestock Development Authority, 2022 is with him?
Yes. 2019 to 2022.
2019 to 2022 is not with him?
Not with Audit Office.
Good. Guyana School of Agriculture?
They have all of them intact, 2010 to
2022 is with the Auditor General?
Yes, sir.
MMAADA?
There's some issues. No, there's not yet. 2015. I think that's been.
Which year?
2015 to 2022, not with.
2015 to 2022, not with him. Guyana Marketing Corporation?
2021 and 2022, not with.
2021, 2022, not with him.
2021, 2022, not with AG. And for Gaisuko, 2022 is outstanding.
2022 is outstanding for Gaisuko.
Yeah.
Now, what is so when these agencies submit their financial statements, the Auditor General's office takes over from there.
Yes.
So what has caused the delay for 2022 from NDIA and the delay for the others? And in particular, I see this one that you said, MMAADA, since 2015, they have not submitted their financial statement. What is responsible for these delays? And if we may start with NDIA.
What's it?
I'm doing it chronologically in terms of how I have the agencies here in the book.
Yes. With regard to NDIA, we operate in 10 regions, and part of the financial assessment will include what we call asset verification. And this requires the office who's performing the works to visit each and every piece of equipment throughout the country, from region 1, 7, 9. So that process is more of a lengthy time. It depends on the weather and so on. And that's generally where we're getting delayed. In addition to that, we would have tendered our financials out for a suitable firm. So there's a procurement aspect there as well that we have to go through.
So is that to say that 2021 was delayed also? And 2020 and so on?
No. The Audit Office would be having 2017 to 2021.
No, I understand that. But last year, you were expected to submit your 2021. And there is a time period to do that, right? So based on what you're saying there, you did not meet that deadline in 2022?
I have to check on the deadline for last year, but generally this is a challenge for us.
So AG, can you assist us? Was NDIA able to reach their deadline in 2022 for the submission of 2021 financial statements?
Mr. Chair, I'll have to get back to you. I don't have that information.
Okay, so can we move to...
Hold on, member Mike. Mr. Higgs, given that you have recognized that is a challenge, which prevents the audit to be completed within their respective time frame, has there been anything you and your team have recommended to curb this challenge so that you could actually meet the deadline? And I understand your remit is very vast. But the fact that you know has there been any methods put in place that could at least bring it closer to the deadline or even meeting the deadline?
We were looking at various options. On the procurement side, we were thinking maybe selective tendering for a firm that will shorten the procurement process. In addition to that, there's always a assigned member from our finance department who will go on the visit. We're also looking to probably add a few more persons to that team to accelerate the visits with the accounting firm.
And when the addition to the team will be done?
But we're pulling from in-house, from the team. The difficulty with that is that you're moving a staff from the processing or the finance department to do the audit. But we more or less have to prioritize, and that can be done at any time.
So
go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. I was still, when I said I was moving, I was going to the allotted amount. But since you raised something very important there. In each one of these regions, there are NDIA offices. Those offices are staffed with technical people alone. They don't have administrative people that are from this headquarter to facilitate those information.
With the exception of Region 6, in the other regions we have technical or engineering personnel mostly.
So to satisfy this deadline, in order to hold to accountability and transparency in a timely manner, would you say that you're understaffed?
With those departments are, I would say, new departments, developing departments where we want to decentralize.
Which departments?
The regional departments.
Okay.
Right, which we hope in time to fully develop as NDIA develops.
Okay, because my query and concern is very particular on the basis of the amount of monies that are disbursed by the National Assembly to NDIA. Just in 2019, it was $5.6 billion. And I know in 2022, that sum is almost doubled or over. The sum in 2022 is how much? Can you help me out? Remember the amount? I think it's 10 billion or more.
My finance managers tell me last year was 12 billion.
12 billion.
Approximately.
Approximately 12 billion. So we need to ensure that we operate in a timely manner for accountability purpose, because $12 billion is not a small amount of money. Nari.
Mr. Chairman, a follow-up before.
Yes, go ahead.
On MDI. The CEO acting, Mr. Chairman, reported that asset verification caused delay, and there is a significant delay here. You have the last report was laid in Parliament was in 2014, last audited 2016. Now, asset verification, if asset verification is causing these delays, these significant delays, what is the agency doing, or what has the agency done to address this area of concern?
With regards to the delay, I think the reference is being made to the financial statements, which for 2022 is delayed. And as indicated earlier, we've been expanding the verification team, as well as looking at securing an audit format at earlier dates.
Can I ask Mr. Chairman a follow-up question to Mr. Siraj?
Just after Siraj. Member Siraj had a
she's following.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Member the Chair.
Yeah, I wanted to ask the gentleman, does the NDIA have an assets register that normally is kept up to date and where assets are sent, if it's equipment. So, and in the offices in the regions, is there a handover receipt system that any equipment going into that region from NDIA is also kept, so that you don't have to wait until the end of a year or when an audit financial statement, your asset registries are kept up to date, which as far as I know is another requirement by law. Isn't that so, Auditor General?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, Madam Gail, repeat.
Could you repeat your question for the AG? Was preoccupied.
Yeah, I was asking the gentleman from the NDIA, one, if they keep an asset register up to date with all things that are bought, acquired, and if they are moved from headquarters to the region, if there's a handover, takeover register in that regional office, so that any one time you have an up-to-date register, you don't have to wait until the audit time comes. And secondly, the question to the Auditor General, the issue of keeping an up-to-date asset register, isn't that part of the law?
Mr. Chair, yes, because they prepare financial statement, they have to have assets, liability statement. So the asset register will support whatever asset you have. So if you got prepared into financial statements in accordance to international standards, then you'll have to keep an asset register. But I don't think they have that register showing what assets were handed over to the various regions.
But it is not a big adjustment. I think the gentleman you're talking about having to run around the country to all the offices to check on assets. But if you keep an asset register so you know where everything is, then what you're doing is verifying that the assets that have been distributed are physically there or in working condition. Makes your work less onerous, I would believe, and less time. And then you could tell what has been stolen, what is unserviceable, and so on. Otherwise, if you don't have an asset register that you're doing a system where you can tell where things are, you're going to lose a lot of government property that way.
If I can, just for clarity, sir,
Yes.
Thank you. I just want some clarity from the officer that is answering this particular question, because based on my understanding of his response, he's not saying that they don't have a list of what assets they have, but he's stating the difficulty when it comes to actually having the physical verification of those assets, because whether or not they have the list, it doesn't stop them from having to go and verify that, yes, this is listed here, but we have to see it physically there before we can check it off in that audit process. I don't know if that is correct, or if it's a case that you don't have a list. So could you give clarity?
Ms. Hicks, go ahead.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, Mr. Raj.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chairman, given the significant lapse between that which was laid in Parliament and that was received by the Audit Office, can the Auditor General inform PAC if this delay is at his office or the delay is as a result of late submission of the statements by the agency?
AG, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, according to my record, for NDIS statement for the year 2021, we received that on the 5th of August 2022, which would have been, the audit is supposed to be completed according to the FMA Act by 30th of April of 2022. So they have submitted the statement late, and that is why, having recognized that I have a series of set of statements, I have contracted out the audit in order to bring it up to date also. But it basically is because they've been submitting a statement late.
Was 2017 submitted in 2022 as well, Mr. Auditor General? Because it says 2017 to 2021. Are those all submitted one time or they were submitted separate times?
They would have been submitted separate time, but the actual date I will put forward to the piece.
Go ahead,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I note the officer said that they operate in 10 regions, and but they don't have any technical staff in Region 6. Region 6 is a significant region agriculture-wise, and a lot of resources is allocated to Region 6 to do works there. Is there any particular reason why there is no technical staff in Region 6?
To the chair, I think I was misunderstood. I was referring to in Region 6, we have additional support staff, such as finance staff and so on, as compared to the other regions.
Region 6 is the most favored region in this regard. They have a staff complement besides technical officials.
So, Mr. Chairman, are we to understand that only Region 6 has a full complement of staff?
Region 6, is that so?
As compared to the other regions, Region 6 has, I wouldn't say a full complement, but they have additional support staff to support the regional engineer and the operations.
Mr. Chairman, is there any region that has a full complement of staff?
6.
6?
No, don't put words in the gentleman's mouth. Remember.
Just having a laugh moment.
The question is still on the floor, member. Mr. Hicks.
So the chair, the decentralization of NDIA, I would say is a work in progress. There's no established structure. There is a way that we want it to be. Each region, we try to assign a regional engineer, also additional engineers, because of NDIA is more of an engineering operations. Our accounting system is centralized at the head office. But over time, we hope to fully staff these regions with various accounting personnel, numerous rangers and other support staff.
So, Mr. Hicks, through the chair, when did this decentralization start?
To the chair, I have to check the dates, but for the years.
It wasn't 2020, it was before that. These regional offices were existing long before 2015 too. I remember in 2015 when I was appointed to Region 3, an NDIA office was existing at Den Amstel, and there were functioning offices there. So can you help us? When is it that the offices in the various regions were established? You know, I'm having a difficulty, and I want you to understand my position through the chair. Billions of dollars are budgeted and allocated to NDIA yearly. As you rightly said, in 2022's budget, it was 12 billion. We are looking at 2019 here, 5.6 billion. And every year it keeps growing. But we need to ensure that we have accountability and transparency in a timely manner for these monies. And I am finding it difficult to accept that it's a work in progress, knowing that these offices have been existing for years. So I believe it needs to stop being a work in progress and really and truly zone in into putting these measures in place to ensure that there is accountability and transparency. Because with this quote unquote work in progress, the money is not coming slowly, the work got to be done. And it has to be accounted for. I'm sure you're going to agree with me there. So I think it's time NDIA get its act together and make it happen. And I know that it is not singularly you. There is a chairman of the board and a board. And a lot of things have to go through that board and so on. If I'm not mistaken, the PS is a member of the board, an ex officio of the board, right, PS? And am I correct to say that this board has executive authority in terms of the structure, the organogram of the organization? Or is that something that the ministry plays a role in also? Because we cannot have billions of dollars going to an organization. There is no proper structure in place because, as you said, the decentralization is the reason for such. And you have to, the decentralization, the monies must cater for that too. Proper accounting is not just about just spending out to just get drains clean and so on. We got to account for it too. So I think NDIA needs to get its act together and put the structure in place so that we can have proper accountability for the people's money. I don't know if you wish to add a comment to that. $5.6.
Mr. Chairman, whilst the accounting office is pondering on the question posed by Mr. Mike Paul, I want clarification because on the same issue, because we are told that the NDIA does not have an established structure. I find that hard to believe that an agency that has been in existence for so long, we are being told today that the agency doesn't have an established structure.
No, established structure in the respective regions.
But I don't know, if you have a regional operation, somebody must know something that is going on. There must be a plan there, and there must, I simply cannot understand the comment, no established structure, whether it's in the region or whether it's maybe the officer can clarify.
I don't think the officer, member Siraj, said that there isn't a organized structure.
The officer said no established structure, does not have any established structure.
No. I heard him saying that there is no established structure. Can you clarify, Mr. Hicks? Because what I heard is that there's no established structures in the region. It's a work in progress.
Well, I didn't get that. But can we give him the floor to clarify? Go ahead, Mr. Hicks.
Yes, the structure that currently exists, the established structure that currently exists in the region is where we have a regional engineer, and depends on the region, we will have another engineer, maybe an agriculture engineer. What we don't have in the regions are other support staff, such as accounting department and so on.
But Mr. Hicks, you have a number of works going on in respective regions. I can tell you from 2015 to 2020, when I was in Region 3, NDIA had 4 mini excavators functioning there. They had I don't know what them big other equipment mean, but a lot of equipment were functioning in Region 3. And I know I visited NDIA Region 3 office. I think Mr. Lal was the regional engineer there, and there were some other supporting staff at that office. So my problem is that this structure is absolutely necessary to transmit information from the regional offices to the central office, and then that can fix the problem in terms of timely submission of reports. I really think NDIA is lagging behind in terms of how it is operating with taxpayers' money. And I'm making that comment based on not only my observation, but a number of complaints that have reached me with reference to NDIA. So I really think NDIA has to get its act together, put a proper organizational structure in place so that the system can be better and more effective. And I know that these offices have been in existence for years.
I have a question for the CEO. Given the fact that you are in the position of CEO and you understand the layout of the NDIA regional offices in particular, and given the shortcomings of these respective offices, I believe you have some idea with regards to what is needed to make these regional offices more efficient so that the work can be done effectively. And we achieve what Member Mike Paul is trying to achieve: transparency, accountability, and timely submission of the information to the audit office. Now, given this present reality of the shortcomings, if you were to make a recommendation to enhance the services of these regional offices, staff complement and otherwise, what is it that you would propose needs to be done to make these offices very effective in executing this mandate?
Chair, before he answers that, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
I would like to have an understanding. This is 2019 we're looking at. I would like to understand what it is. Something needs to be done in the region. How did it happen in 2019? So that something needs to be done in Region 6 or Region 3, as the case may be. How the system works and how is it working now? So if you could compare the two and see where the shortfalls are, then we could help in making, suggestions as to how it could be improved. So if you could walk us through.
And if I can add to Dr. Hadia's observation, given that there is an example of an office that is supposedly far more equipped in Region 6 with a bigger staff complement, has that region been effective because of the additional staff to be more effective compared to the other regions? And if so, then we could mimic what is being done in 6 in all of the other regions. Go ahead.
So if you could just walk us through how it happened and how is it happening.
Okay. Let's say on a budgeting on a year, let's say you have to budget for some works in 2024. The regional department, through its various visits, various reports, complaints, and so on, will devise their program for the year, the regional engineer that is, and submit it to the head office for consideration in putting together the 2024 budget. Similar, let's say somebody is flooded or an area is flooded, reports goes to the regional engineer, it filters up to the head office for action, or then from time to time, persons will communicate to the head office directly, which we will then filter back to the regional department for verification. So generally, that's how the system works. If there's a payment for a contractor that needs to be paid from the region, it goes through the regional engineer and it's sent to our centralized accounting department. So each region, we have regional engineers, we have an agriculture engineer. There's some cases where one engineer, like in the hinterland areas, will oversee two regions. So the engineering aspect is there for operational purposes. In terms of support to the engineer, that is some area where we probably need some more development in. In addition to that, to get this done, it will need probably a proposal from the management of NDA to the board for acceptance and implementation.
How long have you been serving as CEO?
Just over 18 months.
18 months. But the answer to that question.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So what you're saying there is, well, I was coming to the same point. Is this what happened in 2019? The system that you're talking about there now?
Yeah, this is a system, this is a system that is generally operating for years, but specifically with the report and the verification, the accounting team or the accounting firm, they want to see all the assets, they want to value all the assets. So you have to go around the country with the accounting firm to verify all these assets.
That's for assets. But if you look at 562.
No, but hold on. This is concerning. So you're saying someone from NDIA at the center has to go with the auditors to all of the regions? Why not the auditor just go to the region, pick up the staff at NDIA regional office and go and verify the assets? Wouldn't that save time? Because if there's a shortage of a staff complement, even at the center, why then, and moreover, if you recognize because of the time it takes for you to go to all of the regions, why not, if the contract to audit these the NDIA offices is contracted to an independent auditor. Why the independent auditor with the directive of center to all of the regional offices said this audit is going to be here and next time somebody avail themselves to go around the region and show him all of the assets of NDI, which makes it easier, I believe. And the work could be done much faster. Rather than you waiting until a staff of the center is available to go with the auditor. I mean, this to me lengthens the period for the audits to be done.
Yes, it's true that that's a faster approach. But essentially, we also use it as an opportunity to, some of these assets we would not have seen for months, half year. So we also use it as an assistance for our department and our finance section as well to have a look at these assets.
But that in itself compounds the issue too. Because if you have staff in the regional office, why does the center, you're saying to us that there's an effort to decentralize the responsibilities of NDIA. So why does a staff at the center have to go to see the assets when you could just make a phone call and say, listen, go and inspect the assets, give us an update on this piece of equipment. Is it in best working condition? What is needed to fix it if there is an issue? So there was no need for that level of involvement from the center when you have branches across the country that is staff with NDIA staff. Is not an alien from somewhere going to do what you want to be done, make you gotta do it yourself. Just instruct the staff at the regional offices to go and assess the equipment that you want from the center, the information, so they could assist in you getting all of the information ready for the audits. I mean, I think all of these things, if it is done, it saves time and you will be in a position to satisfy your deadline so that the audits could be done and completed timely. I don't understand why the center has to be intricately involved in a physical verification of the asset when they have offices in each of the regions who can do that very said work for them.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to add to that what you just alluded to. What NDIA can do is submit their regional inventories to head office and update the master inventory. So indeed, there is no need for them to go and do a physical verification.
That is the voice of the Accountant General and the Ministry of Finance. Yes. Thank you, Ms. Chapman. Member Maipo.
Chair, I am scanning through this forensic audit report that was done at NDIA, and the period that it was done for was November 1, 2011 to May 31st, 2015. And I'm not sure if an update was provided or if information was provided, but allow me to ask the CEO. They said here that in 2014, 23 motor vehicles listed as belonging to NDIA, certificates of registration showed that 1 is in the name of NDIA, 16 are in the name of the Ministry of Agriculture, 4 were without registration, and 2 were in the name of contractors. Can you tell us if all these equipment, if they are still with NDIA or the 2 are still in the name of the contractors, the 16 are still in the name of the Ministry of Agriculture, because this is a forensic audit that was done on NDIA. Would you be, I know you are only CEO for 18 months, but we came prepared to get some answers pertaining to NDIA.
To the chair, as a result of that report, we started the process of registering all equipment to NDIA. The 2 you referred to that were registered for a contractor, they were mostly project vehicles that at the completion of the project that were being handed over to the NDIA. As far as I'm aware,
but if it's NDIA money by it, is the NDIA name is supposed to be?
As far as I'm aware, there is no vehicle that was purchased by the NDIA that is with or that's being used by a contractor.
Chairman, I want to end with NDIA by saying that clearly a lot of work needs to be done. I know the CEO is just 18 months there, as he indicated, and I trust that he will endeavor to work with his board to ensure that a lot of these malpractices, I'll term them, are corrected so that full transparency and accountability can happen in a timely manner. That is the major concern here, timely manner of accountability and transparency.
Well, I want for the record malpractice be on the record. I think a lot of shortcomings is existing.
No problem.
Yeah, member Fernandes.
Thank you, sir. Sir, just for NIA, I want to request some additional information to be sent to the PAC.
Yes.
Particularly, I'm asking for the organizational structure of NDIA to state person's designation, who is answerable to whom, and all of those things. And I want to break down for region. Thank you so much.
And also CEO to add to member finance request, put a recommendation of a staff complement to be added that you believe would make the regional offices very effective and efficient. Amount of staff complement and the designated post you believe is required to make those offices very efficient.
Mr. Chairman, my recommendation that they put an asset register in place, which is according to the law, should be done as quickly as possible.
Yes.
The other issue is that all these agencies are required, including the ministry, to submit annual reports to Parliament. The audited reports goes through the Auditor General, but we haven't seen annual reports for these agencies for a long time. It is when one sees the annual report, which would have some of the information that Juretta is asking for, and match it with the audited report, that one gets a better picture of the agency. So whilst we're dealing with audited reports, which is what PAC deals with, I just want to use the opportunity to remind the PS and the agencies under agriculture to remember that they are also required to submit annual reports to the Parliament.
PS with member finance requests for those information. Would 2 weeks be sufficient? Okay.
Certainly, Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Siraj, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And how many vacancies currently exist at the NDI?
Yes.
Siraj is the board member, like he getting answers at the board. Come here, we get the answer, you get it at the board.
Chairman, that would have to be provided.
Mr. Chairman, I want to generalize in terms of all these agencies as opposed to go to them one by one, because I know NARI is no exception to what we just questioned NDIA on. GLDA and MMA, ADA, we would have gone down the same road. But I'm looking, and to build on what Comrade Teixeira spoke about, I'm looking at the Mahaica-Myconia-Barry Agricultural Development Authority Act, and the fact that we are not reaching audited accounts annually is a violation of the Act. Because in Section 32 of the Act, it says the Auditor General shall audit the accounts of the authority annually. And in carrying out this function under Section 1, the Auditor General may, and at the request of the Minister responsible for finance, shall appoint an independent firm for accountants to carry out or assist him in the audit of the accounts of the authority. And it also says that the report of the auditor on the accounts prepared under this section shall be transmitted to the Minister responsible for finance, who shall lay the report before the National Assembly on or before the 31st of December of the following year. That is the one that speaks to audits for MMA, ADA. When I look here at Guyana Livestock Development Authority, the Act speaks to audit again. The accounts of the authority shall be audited annually by the Auditor General. And the other one I have here is the National Agriculture Research and Extension Institute Act, NARI. The board, the institute, and the program advisory committees shall keep accounts of its transactions to be audited annually by the Auditor General. Clearly, and there are others too that I have in my possession here, the Food Safety Act, and I've also sent for the others. This one is the Fisheries Act. Clearly, we have failed, and when I say we, these agencies under the Ministry of Agriculture, they have failed to submit their statements timely and have audited financial statements annually. And that's a violation of the act of itself. So I would like to appeal that we get ourselves together in terms of our acts and ensure that we have timely audited financial statements so that we can peruse, verify, and account for the taxpayers' money. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Member Finance.
Mr. Chair, I have just, and forgive me for going back to this, but I'm looking, sir, and I want to state this because I note, Mr. Chair, and I'm in agreement with her that NDIA needs to have an asset register. Sir, my issue is that I'm looking at a forensic audit that was done between the period of 2011 to May 3rd, 2015. And when it comes to the fixed asset register, I'm going to read directly what the report says because it's very short. This is the forensic audit report. It said NDIA has never maintained a fixed asset register for the review period to record acquisition date, purchase cost, estimated life of fixed asset, depreciation, and disposal of assets. This reckless omission for an entity that has over $4 billion in fixed assets is incomprehensible. The Auditor General's report for the years 2012 and 2013 repeatedly stated that the management of NDIA has failed to maintain historic records for vehicles, equipment, machinery, office furniture, and computers, etc. Despite these concerns, no effort was made by management to compile a fixed asset register in accordance with best practice. So when I read this, this is the forensic audit between the period of 2011 to 2015. I have absolutely no guarantee that when we leave here today, that the ministry and that specific department is going to do anything to change. We have repeated Auditor General's report stating that they need to do this and somebody needs to be held accountable if this is not done. And I believe at the level of the PAC, we should be asking them for a timeline as when they're going to have this put in place. It's absolutely unacceptable that you have a forensic audit repeatedly. You have the audit office asking for the audit register to be had, for an asset register to be had, and they don't have it. At the level of the PAC, I believe we should at this point in time put a timeline to the ministry so that they can get this asset register in place. This is unacceptable.
What's the timeline you would recommend if we are to consider that?
At maximum 6 months.
Members, any other comment with regards to Member Finance proposed recommendation?
Chair, there's a response.
Oh, Member, yes, Mr. Hicks. I'd like to comment on the member's observation and recommendation of the setting.
Yes, Chair. I don't believe at any point I had mentioned that we do not have an asset register. We do have a fixed asset register. And as updated regularly with each piece of equipment, and we can produce it or we can submit it at any time.
And does this asset register that you're referencing came into being recent, or is it with regards to 2011 to 2015 that the forensic audit revealed that there was none?
I would say after the forensic audit, we clean it up a bit and put.
When you say clean it up a bit, it still suggests that it existed, but the audit is saying it didn't exist.
I will ask the finance manager to explain this part. But before Ms. Allen explain, I believe we were talking about assets and asset register in the region. We have a complete asset register. And
where in the regions?
No, centrally. Okay, so I think that's where the difference lies with the explanations.
But does that central asset register covers all of the assets, including those in the regions as well?
Yes, all of the assets of NDIA.
But the Auditor General gave an impression that there wasn't an asset register, and you did not deny that. I asked specifically about the asset register. That was the first question I asked, if there was one.
AG, can you give some clarity here, because there seems to be a mix-up with what's really existing there.
Mr. Chair, I will not comment on the forensic audit because that was not done by the audit office. But NDIA, I think through this committee, the PSC, started preparing their separate accounts, I think from November 2013 onwards. As a 2017 report, financial statement was received on the 27th of October 2019. 2018 report was received the 24th of January 2020. 2019 report, financial statement was received on the 10th of May 2021. And the 2020 report, financial statement was received the 31 of 12, 2021. Just to answer the former question. In terms of the last audit, is 2016. I think that was unqualified. That was a clean opinion. Therefore, since whatever was happening in terms of the AG report comment, the NDIA has since put a register in place. If they did not have one, we would have qualified that statement. What was recommended, I think, at our meeting was for them to get a chartered accountant to do their accounts. And that is what I think the CEO was speaking earlier, when they have to visit all the regions in order to have that register up to date. So that is what took them, I think, the time. And as for the information in terms of the financial statement, as you see there, like 17 was only presented to the audit office on 27th October 2019. That was because the chartered accountant it took to go and get up and do the financial statement. It took a time, not our audit office. When we are verifying items, we normally only do test check. We don't do the 100% in terms of the fiscal verification. But all purchases for the year, we do 100% for those. So once you have a register and you have proper accountability, then it shouldn't be difficult for you to continue prepare these financial statements. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
go ahead, ma'am.
Let me just say that my question, I'm just going to leave it as is because my colleague, Mr. Chair, asked specifically about an asset register. She even made a recommendation that the asset register should be put in place. At no point in time was she corrected by the officers present here today and say, oh, we have an asset register. Now we're hearing something contrary that, oh, at the level of the region, we may not have a register, but generally NDIA have an asset register. And so I don't see how that is something that is plausible to say that NDIA have a register, but oh, we don't know what is in the specific regions. Sir, and to add to my request for documentation, I am for requesting that the asset register of NDIA be submitted to the PAC and for it to state specifically which equipment, what assets are within the various regions. Thank you.
Ms. PS, do you have that request? And are you maintaining that 2 weeks should be sufficient?
Well, let me ask the CEO.
Because you have it. So I'm suggesting that not to say that there's a possibility for an extension of time, but more so to say if a week would be more sufficient given that it's already existing.
The CEO is saying to me 2 weeks.
Okay. Member Siraj, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I have one short question as it relates to staff. We have a number of paragraphs here that are dedicated to staff issues, but the simple question I have for the accounting office is that at paragraph 555, a number of vacancies was identified by the Auditor General, senior vacancies. I noted in the response that some were filled, including the Chief Hydromet Officer who is with us, and also the Chief Technical Officer who is also with us. But in terms of an up-to-date position, can we be told how many vacancies still exist and what steps are being taken to fill these vacancies?
Yes.
So, to date, 11 of the 24 vacancies advertised have been filled. The duties for 9 of the positions were revised to be brought in line with the new direction of the agriculture sector. These duties are being performed by GOG scholars who recently returned. Who recently returned with masters. So there are 4 vacancies yet to be filled. However, these are not considered to be critical because we have officers doing the work of the 4 vacancies not yet filled.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman. The vacancies that are filled by these scholars, do you take in 100% of the scholars available, or if there is an excess, how do you determine who you employ?
But particularly in this instance, there were PSM contracted staff that went overseas to study, so they're back with their masters. So they return to work, having completed their master's, and they've now been doing the duties of the 4 vacancies to be filled.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, am I to assume that in this regard, all vacancies are currently filled one way or the other?
I'm having here, there are no adverse effects on the operations of the Ministry of Agriculture. So,
well, it might have adverse effects on the agencies that are still to lay reports since 2016 and all of that. But Mr. Chairman, reference was made to a forensic audit. Did the NDIA respond to the findings? Were they given an opportunity to respond to the findings of the audit that my colleagues would have made reference to?
Yes.
Can the member kindly repeat?
Given the observation in the audit of the forensic audit that was done, and I figure it also posed recommendations for you to consider, or any of those recommendations implemented to make the system very effective and efficient? Go ahead, Pierre.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a feedback, but apparently our officers weren't there at the time. I'm not sure, but certainly I can follow up on that in terms of the recommendations of the forensic audit.
Mr. Chairman, can I go to 569? Thank you. The Auditor General notes here, Mr. Chairman, that $11.6 billion were expended in current and capital. Now, the 2019 budget would have been approved in December of 2018. So the ministry would have had a full 12 months to execute this budget. What the Auditor General is noting here, that in 1 month alone in December of 2019, a quarter of the total expenditure was expended. Can the accounting officer tell PSC how how the ministry was able to expend a quarter of the entire $11.6 billion in 1 month.
$69, you said? Okay, so hold on. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. In some instances, we would have had a supplementary provision. And in December, we find usually works were committed and ready to be paid. So we found this happening in this particular year where works were already committed. We would have had SPs and we were just more or less provide payments when monies became available in some cases. And of course, there would have been other cases where might have been acceleration of the projects in the last quarter.
Given the following members, see just jump the paragraph ahead. So I'll put paragraphs 557 to 581 for our consideration. Go ahead. Sorry, Mr. Chair. Dr. Mario, you have it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'd refer the PS to 562. $179.37 million was drawn down on the 31st of December 2019 in breach of the check 562. 6562. It was noted 2 checks totaling $179.37 million paid out on the 31st December 2019 to the NDIA to meet expenditures above. Right? The ministry would have breached the act by withdrawal of this significant sum on the 31st of December 2019.
Yes. Through the chair. And
go ahead, Pierre.
Yes. Approval of supplementary provision was given in December, and we would have had projects already committed, and therefore the monies would have been used up on the NDIA.
Mr. Chair, this was for works that are already done.
Yes, committed, done.
Committed or done?
Well, let me ask the CEO
because in 2019 we had early budget.
Yes.
For 2020.
Some would have been already committed.
No. No, you're right. Sorry.
I know I'm right. I'm always right.
You're always wrong, except this time.
We had early budget in 2018 for 2019. 2020 budget came till in August, September time.
October.
So my response is amazing.
But can I ask a question? Even if there's supplementary financial paper, when projects were committed, were these projects that had already gone to tender and have contracts, or how were people hired by contract? Because there are a number of issues coming up in the report of the Auditor General to do with expenditures for works being done by the ministry with no contracts, or the contract's been done after the work has been completed, which is a breach of the rules. So I'm asking, in the case of the supplementary financial paper that covered these programs, were these contracted works? Were they covered by the normal procurement arrangements, or was it an arrangement?
This has been contracted. I can ask NDIA to respond, but these were NDIA works under the supplementary provision.
Yes, I believe this funds were drawn out from the contingency provisions, contingency sum, not supplemental. In addition to that, these works were considered emergency works. They were all contracted with the necessary tender board approvals. A major portion of these works entail the protection of that breach area, sea defense breach area, Danzig. Chairman.
Thanks, Siraj.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm a little bit confused. Just give me a second, Siraj.
Sorry.
The budget for 2019 was passed in early December 2018. And so there was no supplementary financial paper in 2019. Between January and May, Parliament met, and the last sitting in Parliament was May 2019. There was no supplementary financial paper for contingencies or consolidated fund made in 2019. So how was this release of 179 paid out of the consol fund on the 31st of December?
Consolidated fund, Minister.
But it still has to have a supplementary to cover it, Ms. PS. And there was no supplementary financial paper for the year of 2019. None. Parliament only met between January and May 2019. So how was a supplementary financial paper generated for the consolidated fund?
Yes.
Yes, so I'm advised it was contingency fund, but didn't come to here for a supplementary because it was treated as emergency. My officers just said to me.
Therefore, there's a mistake. There's a gap because it meant that the supplementary financial paper would have had to come in 2020 to cover it. Whether contingency or consolidated has to go to Parliament as a SPF, SFP. Whether a year later, 6 months later, or whatever. 2020 was an aberration, but.
Can you repeat what you said, Member Deshira? 2020 was a what?
It was an aberration. There was no budget for 2020. Don't misunderstand me, Mr. Chairman. There was no budget for 2020. It had to be backdated from January to October.
Mr. Chair, I don't know if I agree with that statement as an elaboration, because there was a budget in October that was approved, and supplementaries, I think, came in December of the 29th of December.
Except the money was spent January to August, and then October to December. So there were two documents. One to cover the expenditures which had already taken place without Parliament approve and Parliament backstamping it in September, 2020. And then October to December being presented. Don't argue. There was no supplementary financial paper for the expenditure of 2019. Don't argue. There wasn't any. And therefore, it may have been an oversight, but it should have been done.
But Mr. Shearer, you will agree with me, if I may, because I don't want the wrong message to go out there. Perhaps we can agree on this, that after the 2019 budget, in 2020, the rule or the law permits for 1/12 of the previous year's budget to be expended, and in case of emergencies, which clearly the PS is highlighting was an emergency from their side, the Minister of Finance has the legal authority to draw from the contingency fund, which was done. And the government changed in August 2nd of 2020, and all the necessary documentation that is supposed to come to the Parliament ought to have been brought by the subject minister at that time when Parliament reconvened, which was in September 1, as a matter of fact, of 2020. And so all these...
Mr. Paul, I'm not willing to play your games. The point
that's factual.
The point is that 2019 was the last budget that was passed, and that the Constitution says the budget should be passed by the end of March annually. In this case, it was an aberration because it wasn't passed until October 2020. Whatever documents were available between January and September were provided to the government and late. In some way, there was an omission by somebody in terms of their submissions to include this contingency fund extraction in December 2019. So I have nothing more to say on this. I'm just saying that these contingency funds must be covered as consol funds by supplementary financial papers, whether a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, or a year later. I'm not willing to play games with, well, the government changed and it should have put it in. They didn't even have half the paperwork for January to August in line. So, I mean, I'm not getting into this political debate right now. I'm waiting for my turn, Mr. Chairman, all the time to deal with a couple issues, but I'm waiting.
With your gracious permission, that the rules and regulations that govern our institution, and our institution being our country, was, as far as I am aware, followed in respect to the situation that was there. I am going to accept Mr. Shearer's argument that it was an aberration on the part that we have departed from normal practice given the situation that was at hand. But the requirement to lay the necessary papers with reference to finances that were spent outside of parliamentary approval is catered for in our constitution. And the Minister of Finance had that authority to draw from the contingency fund. At the change of government and the reconvening of Parliament, the papers ought to come from the respective ministries by their subject ministers to the National Assembly. So it was an aberration. Yes, we departed from normal practice, but the law caters for such also. What ought to happen now is for us to do the correct thing. And that is, if that paper was not laid for that amount of money, then the proper thing to do is to bring it to the National Assembly. And that will happen. It's not whether it was incorrect or correct, it's a matter of procedure.
All right. Okay. Noted. Member Budgetary, you have the floor.
Yeah, could you just remind me, Mr. Chairman, before I step out of order, in terms of which numbers we are dealing with right now, paragraph numbers, because I might be or I might be in it. I'm not sure. Beg your pardon?
567 to 581.
567 to 581. Right.
Mr. Chairman, was Member Tishira's.
Yeah, we saw some.
You had her on for a long time.
Just a sec. Yeah, I'm looking at 581. Yeah, 581, there seems to have been, when you look at the shortfall, what was the reason for the shortfall in the, when you look at 581, why was there a shortfall in expenditure, capital expenditure for 581. When you look at 581, what were the reasons for the shortfall? Because there was money in the budget, but why was there such a large amount of under expenditure?
So, Chair, this refers to a particular project. The shortfall of the Hinterland Environmentally Sustainable Agriculture Development Project. The shortfall under this project resulted due to several difficulties experienced in the early stages of the project. First being the difficulties with contracting a financial institution to manage the investment fund, constraints with the development of investment plans, and delays with the recruitment of staff.
When you say the delay in contracting a financial institution, this went to public tender, and what, no one tendered for this? No one responded to this? Because
yes.
It's an IFAD project, right? It's IFAD loan.
Yes, Minister. I can ask project coordinator to go a little bit in detail.
Only 14% of the budget was spent.
Good morning. Through the chair, Raymond Ashman, project board.
Go ahead, yes.
For the Hinterland project. So in 2019, we had a change in staffing at the project. So we had some delays that pushed us into basically the beginning of April. And so we had difficulties there, both at the PMU Central and the regional offices for the project implementation. So those delays compounded with procurement issues essentially delayed implementation, both from the PMU level and at the regional level. This project is Region 9 and Region 1 being implemented.
Was the study done on the state of food and agriculture?
Yes, it was completed in Region 1. There was one prior completed in Region 9 by NGO based in Region 9.
And when were these studies finished, completed?
I can't recall the exact date for this so far for Region 1.
The year, if you can remember the year.
So it was completed in 2021.
Is this project still continuing, sir?
Yes, the project has an extension of 1 year from March of this year to March 2024.
So has the expenditure accelerated under this project since 2019?
Yes, we have been able to make investments within communities in Region 9 and Region 1, so we've significantly accelerated the investments.
How much of the loan is left over? How much of the balance on the loan?
Currently, I am unsure of that percentage. I believe we have about $2 million withstanding with IFAD that is to be withdrawn.
That's $2 million US.
Yes.
Yeah. Did we perhaps face any penalties due to the delays from
No.
the loan agency?
No penalties.
It's unfortunate that we didn't get more of this done earlier. In this issue of the shortfall, you also have some other shortfalls that are noted in the audit report, mostly to do with project funds. In the CDF, CARICOM Development Fund, this is 583, 84, 85. Only 32% of the project was expended. Could you say what were the reasons for this?
Ms. Teixeira,
Yes.
I didn't put those paragraphs.
Oh, sorry, big fan. I'm running ahead of you.
To accommodate you, I put all of the remaining paragraphs.
From 83 onwards?
That's right. You have the floor.
Thank you. To go back to paragraph 583, 84, 85, the CDF loan, which would have benefited 880 million allocated for rural agricultural infrastructure development. Money was allocated for Mocha, Triumph, Buxton, and Ithaca. However, only 32% of the money was expended in 2019. Could one say what were the reasons for only 32% expended in that year? And where was this expended?
I'm told 71 was expended and 32 was a shortfall.
71%?
Yes.
Well, can you then look at paragraph 584? It says the sum of 239 million was expended, resulting in a shortfall of 111 million, or 32% in expenditure for 2019.
Yes.
Am I interpreting correctly?
Yes, 32% is the shortfall. A shortfall of 2%.
Yeah, but can you say what were the reasons for?
Morning, through the chair.
Reasons given here for the delay.
Madam Chair, the shortfall was basically at President's College. We were supposed to construct a dairy processing unit. However, due to land issues with the village and the school, we were not able to do that. And there's some other shortfalls with we needed policy direction on utilization of some savings within the project. Those were resolved. Those were resolved in 2021 for the purchase of additional equipment to support hinterland development.
So could you advise if the dispute with land at President College and the community was resolved, and when? If it was resolved, and when? Sorry.
To my knowledge, it has not been resolved because the issue there, we wanted to do zero grazing farming, and we had cattle intrusion from the village into the college itself.
Could you state your name for the record?
Oh, sorry. Kamala Alvin, the project coordinator.
So the money that was allocated for the President's College Dairy farm, what that was then reallocated to other usages in the project. Is that so?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Could you say like what?
It was allocated to purchase of land implements for the hinterland region. These are the tractor trailers and implements to support the hinterland development.
Okay. Can we go to 588? Fisheries?
Proceed.
This is not a loan as far as I know from the document. Again, this was only 8.317 million was expended, resulting in a shortfall in expenditure of 54.843 million. Could there be an explanation for why this was, why this occurred? And wasn't there need by the fisheries department?
Minister, I'm told that the vessel came in April of 2020. So it was a case we couldn't pay until delivered. So it was delivered the following year. And then it's when the payment was made.
What kind of boat was this?
This is a vessel. It's vessel fisheries for the fisheries department.
Yes, and I said a boat. Yeah. Isn't a boat a vessel? Yeah, so what was the value of this? What kind of boat was being bought by the fisheries? A trawler type boat, a dinghy, a speedboat, a boat with a factory component in it? If you're catching fish, you could clean them and freeze them on board. What kind of vessel was this?
Madam Chair.
Huh? What's that?
For our edification, what is a dinghy?
A dinghy? A dinghy is a little boat that can fit one person in and you paddle. And it could be plastic that is rubber, or it could be a small wooden boat. And one you would not like to be out in the open seas with.
Any clarification?
You're welcome. Yeah, because it's 54 million that was unspent. So I'm trying to get an idea, because the description says the final payment is both provision of incubators, security system, fish feeders, and water filtration system. Are you saying that these other things were done, or these were also outstanding, other than the boat?
It's for the boat, the vessel, the boat, and it is an ocean-going monitoring vessel. So used by Fisheries Department to, I would say, inspection, fishing gears, make sure that fishermen comply with the law. That's my information that I've gathered. It's ocean-going monitoring vessel.
So when did the boat arrive in Guyana, and is it still in use?
The boat was arrived in April of 2020, and it's currently being secured at Coast Guard.
Is it in use?
I can get information for you, Honorable Minister. The head of Fisheries Department is not here right now, but I can have him answer.
Is there an engine on board this boat?
Yeah. I provide the information, certainly.
The money that was not spent, PS, the 54.8 million, was that returned to the Consol Fund?
It was rollover.
With authorization?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
So when was this money finally spent? In 2020?
Yes, yes.
All the things that required?
Yes.
One of the issues I noticed in the briefing notes we got, that there was reference to the shortfall, which I referred to. But the shortfalls, were there any shortfalls in terms of expenditure on flood risk management project?
Yes, Minister, for this year, for 2019, yes, there was a shortfall.
And so why was that? We didn't have any floods, so the money wasn't used?
The shortfall was due mainly to adverse weather conditions, which contributed to the non-compaction of the Orton Dam. There was a specific requirement, but that didn't, we didn't meet that requirement in 2019. That was met in 2020.
I find it strange when you add up all the money that was not spent was $1.371 billion. Isn't this of some concern to you as a PS to the underperformance of the sector?
Yes, Madam Minister, it is of concern.
Could you say what you think could improve the performance of the sector? Or what has been done to improve the performance of the sector?
Stricter monitoring. I think we would have, since 2019, and stricter monitoring. Even though the budget has increased, we continue to monitor in a much more diligent manner using the PSIP.
But the PSIP existed long before 2019.
Yes, yes.
So what has contributed to what you say is an improved performance specifically? Because the PSIP has been there all the time for PSs to measure performance. Have you put in a special unit, a special project management unit, a special monitoring and evaluation unit? Is there any innovation or initiative that has helped you to improve the monitoring?
We have an electronic system, and in that system, it's in the Google Drive. We kind of monitor a little more frequently. It's like in real time. You can see what's happening, so the questions can be asked with much more frequency.
But also with management is also on the ground, seeing what's really going on, other than electronic device. What kind of monitoring goes on the ground to see how things are going, and how do you receive that as a PS? How are you brought up to date with how these projects are working, even with bodies that don't, like NDIA and NARI and all these bodies, but also the departments that are under the ministry that are directly responsible to you? What mechanisms have you put in place to get timely reports so you know if you're keeping it to your budget or not?
As I said earlier, we have the Google Drive, we have the WhatsApp. We also go out in teams. The audit, field audit would go with the engineer, would go with the M&E officer. So we have much more in terms of pooling, and we specifically have visits, going out, field visits, pooling. So we kind of, a little more, I'd say, like structured approach.
Mm-hmm. So we expect in the 2020 budget, when we go through the audited report, we'll see a better performance. Is that so?
Yes, Madam Minister.
Mario, you have the floor.
Thanks, Chair. Chair 566. I see vehicle PVV 1434 in 2 years. He spent $6.4 million to fix. Was this a new vehicle? Was it bought new or reconditioned? It was registered in 2016.
Can you kindly repeat the number, vehicle number?
PVV 1434.
Oh. It's hydromet.
Hold on.
6 years that I'm having here, 6 years.
So the date of registration is 2016. Was it a new vehicle that was bought in 2016, or was it a reconditioned vehicle? If it is a new vehicle, then in 2 years' time, or maybe less, we spent nearly 3.4 million to fix. And then within a year, we spent another 3 million to fix.
I was told this is for out of town vehicles. The chief hydromet officer is here. He has many automatic weather stations across Guyana that they usually visit. I don't know if you want me to add anything to this statement. I can ask them.
So this vehicle was used by the hydromet office?
Yes, sir.
And we didn't. Was this vehicle a vehicle that's used that could be used off-road?
Yes.
Is this vehicle still in use?
Yes, sir.
It would be interesting to see how much more money we would have spent in 2020 to now, because every year we are spending $3 million to fix.
Mr. Chairman, as a follow-up, can we be told specifically what went wrong with this vehicle that warranted $6 million expenditure within 2 years? Was it any accident that resulted any major mechanical issue? Because quite frankly, a Land Cruiser is a vehicle that is built for those kind of conditions, and something must have gone wrong.
I have here wrench, tail lamp, general repairs, and replacement of parts.
So, Mr. Chairman, will it be fair to say that a significant amount of this expenditure is not necessarily repairs, but to, let's say, accessorize the vehicle for challenging conditions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. If I may bring some context, this is a Land Cruiser pickup vehicle. In 2018, the Hydromet Service benefited from a grant from the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, which gifted the government of Guyana, the people of Guyana, 21 new automatic weather stations. This vehicle, it was then required for the service to go out into the interior location for reconnaissance, to identify locations for the installation of these stations. This vehicle was one of the better vehicles that we had to go into the unknown territory. As a result, it worked excessively during the year 2018 to ensure that those locations were properly identified so that the stations could be installed in keeping with the project requirements through which that grant was made. Thank you.
That's 2018. How do you justify?
Can we have the gentleman state his name for the record, please?
The name is Garvin Cummings.
Cummings, Mr. Cummings. All right, thanks.
Can I move to 590, please? 591, if my comrade is finished.
1 second.
Point of clarification.
Go ahead, Miss.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your patience. Sir, on the matter that we were discussing when it comes to the supplemental paper that was said to not have been laid in the National Assembly. Sir, I just want to give some clarity to that and further ask the AG to just confirm, because while there was a supplemental paper of 2019 that was laid in the National Assembly, it was not until 2020 that amount would have been cleared in the National Assembly. A supplemental paper did exist and was laid for that. And I just want to ask the AG if he can confirm that.
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Chair, yes, as of November 29, 2020, the amount of 4.1 billion was not cleared. It was subsequently cleared in 2020 budget.
Yes, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, 591. The issue that's raised here is that 31 contracts with an aggregate value of 584.339 million were expected to commence in the last quarter of 2019. And further, 31 contracts of 95.61, sorry, let me start. 31 contracts were 10 projects with an aggregate value of 95.6 million were awarded in May, June, and September 2019. And the question being raised by the Auditor General, which I agree with, is why in some cases more than 4 months elapsed after the award was given. So normally people blame that the awards come late and therefore people then can't sign up the contract until the awards are made. But in this case, the award was months before May. In May, two were in May. A number of them were in September, a couple of them July. But they weren't awarded until November, December. Could there be an explanation for why? What was the delay in awarding contracts that were already approved?
Madam Minister, I have here that NDI has indicated that there were some delays due to inaccessibility to the villages during July and August of 2019 as a result of the inclement weather conditions. Nonetheless, I'm told that all of these projects would have been subsequently completed, except one, which we had an inclusion program.
Well, obviously that explanation wasn't given to the Auditor General, because the Auditor General flags it, that it was unclear why contracts are commencing in some cases more than 4 months after they were awarded. So clearly your explanation was not given to the Auditor General office. That's why we ask questions. If the questions are answered by the ministry, then we don't have to ask a lot of questions. But the Auditor General had a concern that both in the first sentence and the second sentence in regarding to the delays. So you're saying 2 of them went back to May. Can you imagine an award made in May couldn't be until the awards were made in May, but the contracts weren't done until November? Why is that? That isn't because of weather. Cannot be because of weather. And you said it was, I think, July and September. And accessibility. This is 2 contracts, $15 million, $16 million, irrigation pipes.
My remark, there was a flood, July, August. Maybe that could be verified. There was a flood in the area, which is Bamboo Creek and Tunising.
Well, that's why they needed the pipes.
Right.
That's why they needed the pipes. And so between May, when the flood took place, and November, this was how urgent this was, that a community is flooded and no one does anything until November, when the contracts were already awarded. They couldn't have been flooded from May to November. It did not happen. Did not happen.
To the chair, just a point of clarification. These pipes were for irrigation projects.
Yes. So, if the reason, sir, is that there was a flood and therefore you couldn't go in, the flood did not take place from May to November in 2019 in Tunising and Bamboo Creek. I'm talking because I know. The reason given by the PS is it was a flood. You're telling me, you're trying to ask me to believe that a flood occurred between May and November 2019 in these areas for 2 small projects for irrigation purposes. If there's a flood, wouldn't irrigation be important?
Yes.
If you go to the next ones, again, Tusaning and Bamboo Creek, again, these are contracts in July and September. They did not, some were November, one for Micah Perth, excavation of drainage and irrigation canals. July 2019 awarded. Nothing done until December. Again, you go back to the lower Maroon, desilting of drains. This would reduce flooding. Why would it take all these months? That's the question I'm asking, and that's the question the Audit General asked. And clearly the answers he was given did not convince him, as these answers are not convincing me. Someone slipped, someone took their eyes off the ball. Or was it because these contracts weren't too big that were exciting enough for some people?
To the chair, I also believe around this time we had the COVID pandemic. But certainly some of these contracts...
COVID started in March 2020 in Guyana.
Yeah. Certainly some of these contracts, with respect to the supply of irrigation pipes to the two Amerindian communities, because of accessibility and so on. And in addition to that, there are the two products for installation could only be executed after the pipes were delivered. So that caused a delay in that aspect as well. The port area, that area was completely flooded. And with regards to the ports of a tractor, so we did receive the tractor and the equipment, and was delayed due to shipping aspects as well.
But if there was a flood in Perth, Mahika, and Bayaboo in July, you mean you had to wait till December to give out the contracts?
To the chair, for that particular area, we had more or less agreed that with the contractor that he would have to wait until the water subsided before he could have commenced.
Are you trying to convince me as a Guyanese living in Guyana, sir, that the water didn't subside between July until December 2019 in the Mahika area, Perth and Bayaboo? Are you trying to tell me that, sir?
No, Madam Minister.
Yes, I asked you a question about managing projects, and this is a glaring example again between NDIA in this case and your ministry, because you're the chief accounting officer, for delays that are inexplicable and unacceptable, because these are small areas that need help. These are not the mega projects. These are simple interventions that are not expensive, that are budgeted for, that make a difference in those communities' lives. And therefore, they're just as important as the projects that are $500 million and $1 billion. And in fact, you get better satisfaction out of them because these are small projects that would make a big difference in these communities, a big difference. Could you say then that projects that were November, December, when were they completed? In December 2019 or 2020, and when?
So there are different dates for different projects.
Yeah, just a range.
Okay, so supply of irrigation pipes, that was done and completed the 30th of September 2019. The ones for This is what I have here. I'm reading from it.
But it says November in the Auditor General's books. That's when it was the month of commencement. Look at page 204, PS.
Yes, but this is what I have as remarks, that the work commenced in July. So the date of award is the 2nd of May, and the works commenced in July and was completed the 30th of September. For the other one, provision of labor for the installation of irrigation pipes at Tuseneng, it commenced December 1st, 2019, and completed 30th of July, 2020. 30th of June. Bamboo Creek, that commenced December 2019 and completed May of 2020. The tractor and implements Region 8 was delivered in December of 2019. Delivery date is 23rd of December 2019, and the tractor was delivered on the 14th of May 2020, which meant the implements came and we wait a few more months for the tractor itself. Port Bible, commencement date 21st of October 2019, and it's completed on the 21st of December 2020. There's a main drainage canal. The silting of drains Lower Pomeroon, commencement the 3rd of September 2019, completion the 2nd of March 2020. Tushen farming area, commencement date the 1st of September, and the final completion date the 15th of August. And the last one, purchase of tractor and rotary cutter, that was delivered in December of 2019. That is a rotary. And the tractor itself, the delivery date was 14th of May, 2020.
Thank you, PS. Could I then ask the Auditor General, how do they come up with these dates versus what PS is presenting to us today? Because we have to go with what the Auditor General puts.
Mr. Chair, we will get it from the details on the contract, and that's why we put it here. But as noted from the explanation, all of these were supplied in the next year, or the work will continue in the next year.
Can I then ask a follow-up question? If you're saying that you took it from the contracts, and the contracts are all dated November, December, but work was done and completed at different times, June, September 2019, June 2020, etc. In the case of the one that was finished in September 30th, 2019, that was prior to when the contract commenced. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, can I get back to PSC on this? I need to look back at my work.
There's one last question on this, if you'd allow me, Mr. Chairman, and then I'll close. The excavation of drainage and irrigation channels, Perth Mahika. The project was canceled according to the notes of the PS because the land was completely flooded and water was not receding. Was this project reintroduced in the budget of 2020, 21, 22? Has this issue been addressed or still remains an issue that is unaddressed? It says the one project that was not done according to PS notes, paragraph 591.
Through the chair, the area is still flood prone. It still remains an issue, but the hope-like works for Region 5 is scheduled to, if implemented, will drain this particular area.
So if the area is flood prone, which we know it is, when these desilting or whatever of these channels reduce it? Isn't that the intention of the project?
Yes, this entire project, airport, it was envisaged to be developed in two lots. The first was the excavation of the main drain, the port channel,
right,
which would reduce the water level on the land itself. And
right,
the other would have impounded the area. But what we found after excavating the main drain, the water did not subside sufficiently to allow an excavator to go here. So the scope would have changed. To execute works on the land, now you will probably need to use an amphibious excavator to get that work.
You'd have to use what? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Maybe an amphibious excavator to get that kind of work done, which was not initially in the scope of works.
Do we have such a vessel or vehicle, or whatever you call it? Do we have an amphibious vessel?
Yes, we have.
So is this a project that continues to occupy NDIA in the budget for 2020 or 21 or 22?
In the proposed development for Region 5, the Hope Like Works, this area is considered.
And it's in 2023 budget, or will be in 2024 budget?
I'll ask the TS to address that.
I cannot give that commitment if it will be in 2024. Thus far, it has not been budgeted based on what the CEO acting would have said.
Last lick then, and is this considered for the CEO of NDI? Is this considered an important project or urgent project?
Yes, Madam. So this is considered an important and urgent project.
So I assume that you will consider its inclusion in the 2024 budget.
Certainly.
Thank you.
I recognize there's no additional question to this agency. Member Maipa.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I wanted to just to go back to NDIA when he proposed that a possible way to fast track the system was to do selective tendering. I just want to point you to the Procurement Act and ensure that you are guided by that act, that when it comes to selective or restrictive tendering, it has to be for goods and services by reason of it being specific, that it can only be supplied by a specific group of people. So just ensure, as you seek to fix the system, you are guided by the existing laws, and in your bid to deal with selective tendering, please ensure it falls within the category as stated by the Procurement Act. And sir, if I may, given these agencies and so on, I want to ask request of the administrative heads of these agencies, more specifically NDIA and NARI, for a brief description of the goods, services, construction, or consulting services that have been procured, and the names and addresses of suppliers or contractors that submitted tenders, proposals, or quotations, and the name and address of the supplier or contractor with which the contract is entered into, and the contract price. And if I can have that for the period of August 2022 to date. Oh, be quiet. We're not up to date with their auditor report, so don't get down that road. Don't go down the road. And this is in keeping with the Procurement Act.
Yes, would 2 weeks be sufficient for you to provide that information?
Seems as though you cannot provide for the years 2020 August to current.
Yes, that is unacceptable. Let me tell you why, with your permission, Chair. The Procurement Act of this country at section 10(1) states, and I quote, the procuring entity shall maintain a record of the procurement proceedings, including, and the two that I ask for are the two that is specific to be public. So that is unacceptable if it cannot be. It should be provided in 1 day. 2 weeks is very, very flexible.
Are you, just for correction, are you saying from August 2020 to current?
No, I said August 2022 to current.
Oh, yes. I thought I misunderstood.
Okay.
Sorry.
But even if I had requested from 2020 August, it should be able to be provided within minutes, because the procuring entity ought to have a record of it. That is by law.
Yes, so 2 weeks. Dave. Yes.
Thank you very much, PS. That's all, Chair.
Noted. There be no additional questions for this agency. PS, thank you and your team for making an appearance to the Public Accounts Committee, and please adhere to the committee's proposed date for the additional information to be submitted to the Public Accounts Committee.
Thank you very much, sir.
Members, we will break for 1 hour lunch before we continue. Thank you.
We are a peaceful people. Struggle is always struggle, and we don't look for trouble. Just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Big mistake.